Hello everyone, it's Chammies, and today I wanted to tell you all about my experience getting physical therapy for my vagina. I wanted to make this video because at first I didn't even know you could get physical therapy for your vagina. I never thought that was a thing, but I'll kind of talk you through my experiences as well as the history, context, the problem identification, treatment, the results of that treatment, and then how I kind of felt emotionally during the treatment. And so I wanted to make this video to kind of share my experience with all of this because I didn't know anything about it before I went through all of it, and to kind of talk about how, one, it's perfectly normal to get physical therapy for your vagina, and it is actually an option. So let's get started. We'll start out a couple years ago. I was having sex with my partner, and for some reason one time we did it, it just started hurting. I didn't know why, but we kept going, so I was like, oh, like it kind of hurts, but sometimes you just need to warm up a bit and it gets better with some lube and stuff. But then for some reason, when we kept trying after that, it still kind of hurt trying to do it. So eventually I went to the doctor. I was like, hey, why does it hurt when I'm having sex? And they looked at my vagina and they found that there was a cut on the left labia or something. And so she's like, oh, you just have a cut here, just let it heal, don't do anything until it heals. So I waited for a couple, I think it was a couple weeks, and then it healed, and then I tried to have sex again, but it still hurt. So I was like, okay, clearly something's going on here. I'm not sure what, but it's still hurting. So I went to the doctor and they examined my vagina again, and they said, okay, your scratch is gone now, so it's not that anymore. Your body's physically fine. So maybe it's a mental thing, or maybe you gotta stretch more. So they sent me to something called a pelvic floor specialist, which I actually had no idea that even existed or what that was. And they basically specialize in doing all things with your pelvic floor here, which is just your pelvic muscles and stuff. And so people will go there if maybe they're gonna give birth and need to prepare, or maybe they want to practice stretching, or maybe they go there because maybe they're having problems with their digestive system, and sometimes the pelvic floor exercises can help with that. Or maybe in my case, it hurt when I was having sex, so we didn't know why, so they sent me there. And so now that's kind of some context and background behind figuring out there was a problem. So now I'm at this pelvic floor specialist, and they do a couple tests, mostly with their hands and objects, putting different things inside and figuring out, does it hurt when I go left? Does it hurt when I go right? Does it hurt when I touch this outer part? What about this part? They had me do some breathing and stretching, and they explained it to me like this. So your vagina basically can get PTSD, so trauma. So when I was having sex and it still hurt, which I don't do that. If it starts hurting, say something and don't keep going. But I was like, oh, sometimes it's just I thought it would relax after, but it did not. So she said your vagina has now associated sex with a painful experience. So now it thinks that every time you have sex, it's gonna hurt, because based on those couple times you did it and it did hurt, and now it thinks that. So every time I put something in, it starts to hurt, even though it shouldn't, because obviously vaginas can stretch, whatever. So now she's saying all the nerves and the vagina are not really used to it, and so they start freaking out. And so we had to do physical therapy on the pelvic floor to kind of get it to relax and get used to, okay, something's coming inside. Okay, something is entering, and we need to calm it down so that it recognizes that this is not a painful experience anymore. So it was kind of a mind thing plus also a physical nerve thing. And so she put me on a couple of different treatment things I had to do. So now we're kind of into what was the treatment of this. And so for the treatment section, I had to do a couple things. The first one is these breathing exercises. So they're kind of like Kegels, which is when you tighten up your vagina, but it's kind of the opposite of what you think. So basically I'm practicing right now to tell you the right instructions. So basically you breathe in. As you breathe in, you actually relax your vagina, and then as you breathe out, you actually tighten it. And it actually does help. I thought that would be opposite advice, but it actually helps a lot in loosening your vagina even more. So if you imagine just breathing in, doing a Kegel regularly, okay, it's tight, it's loose, but if you breathe in at the time you're stretching out, it actually relaxes even more. You can feel that relax. And then the other thing she had me do, and so I'd have to do a series of those breathing exercises, 15 of those every day. And then she also had me do this thing where you stick your finger in every day, or gradually work up to bigger objects, and you would stick it in there and then kind of move it around and then go in and out, just to kind of make your vagina used to, okay, something's coming in here and it's not a threat, it's okay, it doesn't hurt. So we had that going on, and so I had to practice that every day. And then they also did give me like some lidocaine because I did want to try having sex eventually. And lidocaine is like a numbing agent. So she said like if you use this lidocaine a little bit before having sex, right there on the spot, like right on the outer opening labia, because that's what was actually hurting a lot, was right in the opening. So she's like, if you use this on there, then it can numb the spot. So when you do it, it hurts a little less. And then each time you do it where it hurts less, your brain's gonna remember the pathway of like, oh, I did it and it didn't hurt as much. So it's kind of like tricking your brain, but not really a trick because it actually isn't in pain, but my body thinks it's in pain, if that makes sense. So it's like making my brain think, okay, so saying sex is not going to be painful like those 2 times it was. So there was that, and then also doing like suggesting doing positions where I have more control, like for example me on top or like sideways, which is like less what's it called, less aggressive, like because there's some positions where like, yeah, they have the position go real far in and it can hurt because you don't have much control and it takes a minute to stop. So she's like, doing only positions where you have control and you can stop it and you can control everything. So we tried doing that, and then also just doing regular stretching exercises like for the pelvic floor, which actually are just good in general. So you just kind of do things like the butterfly stretch, and then like that where your legs are like, you're laying down and your legs are like this stretching. And so lots of those types of stretches just to get it relaxed, stretched out. She was like, I recommend doing this right before you do it, and also just every day in general. Yeah, I think I covered, that's like pretty much the whole treatment plan. And so I would just do those, and like I also just continue to go to pelvic floor therapy. Like I think I want to say every other week or something, maybe every week at first, just so they could go in, like put their finger in, test if it's actually getting better, if we need to adjust. Like, so they didn't give me all these at once. Like usually they start with like 2 or 3 exercises. I'm like, okay, let's try this exercise. Let's test if this hurts or this feels okay or this feels good. So we did a lot of that. And so that was kind of like the treatment plan. And so now kind of talking about the results section. But yeah, so I'd say for like a year or 2 I did those stretches, and then it finally started to feel better after having sex after about a year of trying a little bit and so now like I can have sex, thank goodness, which is cool. I can have sex now, but it still sometimes hurts, especially if I haven't done it for like a couple of weeks or something, because my vagina kind of, I guess it tightens up again, and then I have to remember to stretch it out, relax it, let it know this is cool, sex is not painful. And so a couple times, usually if after I do it a couple times I'm a partner with like really good communication and lube, then it feels better and it helps me get back used to like having sex multiple times a day. And so, I mean, I still do it, so like it's still something I do today. I don't do as many or like all of those things, but I definitely still do the pelvic floor stretches. Some tips I've learned is definitely, I mean, this is good for just all sex experiences and sexual intimate experiences, but it's really, I felt good telling new partners like, hey, this is what I'm going through. I mean, they should always be really gentle, but it's like just to give them a heads up of like, hey, like, please go very slow, like, you know, and check in how it's going. Is it going good? Like, does it hurt? So that makes me feel like more comfortable, which in turn makes, I think, my body just all general feel more comfortable. So that has really helped in terms of doing it with my partner, kind of letting them know that I have the heads up, like you're gonna have to be real gentle, real sensitive down there, like, and like we need to be extra communicative, which like I said is really good in general for sex. So yeah, I would say definitely communicating to your partner if you have something like this. I know it can be like a little awkward sometimes to talk about, but at least for me, it's really helped me like feel better about the whole experience, knowing that they know where I'm coming from, so they can be aware of this as we go forward in the experience. I will say, like, in terms of how I felt emotionally, it's definitely, I felt really bad and like I felt really sad that I wasn't able to have sex. One, because, you know, I like sex, so it sucks if you can't have it. And then also I think there was this other part of me that like just felt like I was letting my partner down at the time. Like I wasn't able to please them, you know, in that way. And I know you could do other things, but like just doing those things made me mentally feel like I was just sad as a reminder of like, oh, I can't even like have sex with them. So that part was kind of hard to get through, and like I'm still kind of figuring out, you know, relationship with sex. That's always a thing to figure out and understand about yourself, but topic for another video. But this just definitely played into me having to face like, you know, how do I feel about it? Like, you definitely want to find a partner who obviously will love you no matter what, even if like sex is off the table for a little bit, obviously. So just a lot of things to think about that this whole experience has made me think about. So that was pretty much my experience going to physical therapy for my vagina. Did not know that was a thing, but now hopefully y'all know that this is the option for you. If something's hurting down there, then you could totally just ask to go to a pelvic floor specialist and they will help you sort all the stuff out down there and make sure that everything's going well. And it's totally normal to get pelvic floor therapy for your vagina. Like, I didn't know that, but now it's like, oh, a lot of people do this. It's common for many different stages of life or reasons. So I found it really helpful, and I'm really glad I did it, because otherwise it would have just kept hurting and I would have just kept feeling more and more down and like got into some spiral of like, wow, can I never have sex again? Like, it's still weird because right now I think about, you know, will it ever be the same as before, which I guess not. I wonder, like, you know, will I ever go back to a place where it doesn't really hurt that much when I start out? But I think it's okay, because it's just like, it's just something I have, and like luckily there are things that you can do to make it better, like forever, and stretching is good for you in general. So I learned to just kind of get used to it and be like, you know, it's okay. Like, my body had a time and it hurt, and now I'm just doing things that help it feel better. I hope you all found this video useful and helpful, and now you know a little about physical therapy for your vagina. Definitely possible, great option. I found it super helpful, and so I hope you all have a great rest of your day, week, life. If you like the video, please like, you know, hit the notification bell, ding, and you can also subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Yeah, please comment below if you found this helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts and any feedback. Well, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.